Welcome back here to the Gill Connections podcast. Again, so humbled you would press play today to listen to the show. Let me know. Hit me up on, if you look down in the description, whether you're on YouTube or one of your podcast apps, you'll see a million ways to get a hold of me: my email, cell phone, Twitter, etc. Let me know in whatever avenue you want how you are enjoying the guests we've had. The Gill 1918 project that we've been doing. I want to get some feedback from you guys and gals who are loyal listeners on what you're thinking, and then also any referrals you might have for future guests. I mean, this is just it's a fun fest, and we want to have every coach. It's like Pokemon. We want to have every catch them all, every coach on the podcast, and that starts one by one by one by one. And I can't wait to share with you today's one and his story. So help me welcome from over in Warsaw Community High Schools, over in Indiana, great state, great area over there, the wise, wonderful Mr. Sean Foulkes. Sean, welcome to the show.
Hi, Mike. Thanks for having me. Appreciate
Yeah,
it.
absolutely, man. We've known each other for a while. You're kind of, I don't know how we would term this. So you're not a past guest in the sense of like we've never done this, our long journey here, but you've been on when we do at USTFCCCA, we do a live recording of the show and get coaches sit down for 5 to 10 minutes. You've been on that at least once, and I think a couple times, if I'm not mistaken.
Just once.
Is that right? Okay, I was
Yeah, just
thinking
once.
more than one. Yeah, after 300 and I mean, this is going to be episode 360 something. Uh, Monday shows, our long form shows, and then you take into account the live events we do and things like that. I give myself grace that I forget who's been on the show, who hasn't, how many
Oh
times, all
yeah,
that kind of.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. Thank you. I appreciate that. I always love grace from our guests. Sean, man, what's going on over in Indiana? How are things? We're recording this in April. How's the weather? How's practice? You getting outside? What's going on?
Well, we're trying to get outside when we can.
Hmm.
So Indiana is interesting. I'm going to say that right off the bat because, like, I'm not originally from Indiana. I'm from Michigan.
Hmm.
Um, and so our seasons are a little different in how we approach the track season. So, like, down here in Indiana at the high school level, um, they have a 4 or 5 week indoor season as part of their outdoor season.
Hmm.
So those meets kind of count towards your meet total, and then you have like an indoor state championship, which is the Hoosier State Relays, and
Hmm.
it's kind of
Hmm.
a big school, small school thing. I mean, it's a really neat opportunity, and we're very fortunate enough in the area that we're in that we actually have our own indoor
Oh,
track to
yeah.
like host some of those meets in. Um, but it's really neat because we get to wear the colors, and this year the
Yeah.
weather helped out enough that we were able to have an outdoor meet kind of sandwiched in between some
Hmm.
of our indoor meets.
Yeah.
And so that was interesting. But
Is that meet still the unofficial indoor state meet? Like
yeah,
it's not run through Indiana? Yeah.
yeah,
Illinois, we do that same thing over here. We haven't, a non-sanctioned. It's not sanctioned through the high
right.
school athletic association. One of the cool things, I mean, there's many cool things, but one of the things I really like about Indiana track and field, a couple of years ago now, I went out and interviewed a high school coach from every state to talk about their outdoor state meet. So we really,
Yeah.
it was fascinating. If you're listening now, and that's news to you, you haven't heard that, go back, whatever app you're using or whatnot. I think it was 2 years ago. So literally every state, Alabama to Washington, D.C., we did 51 of them. Really dived into their outdoor state meet. So how they qualify, what events they do, that blew my mind, honestly, is how different events each state does it,
Yeah.
how they conduct their state meet, et cetera, et cetera. But the unique thing about Indiana, it was one of the few, there was at least one other one off the top of my head, California, that does a one class system. There is no A, double A, big school, small school. It is, if you got 30 kids in your school, if you got 3,000 kids in your school, we all
Yeah.
dive into trying to win the same state title. And I like that. That's actually, I think, never having coached at a school that only had 30 kids in it, I'm sure they maybe think differently, but I do like that. What do you think about that?
Well, coming from a school when I was in high school that was a two hallway and a gym high school,
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I mean, we were lucky that like our group had 40 when I was in high school on the guys' side, but they would traditionally have like 13.
Right.
And so I I think there's certainly some merit into the divisions,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just the population base to be able to say, look, if I have 3,000 people, I should have roughly 30 true athletes
Mm-hmm.
throughout the entire school at the minimum,
Mm-hmm.
right? And some people would argue the number, but like, look, at 1,000 kids, you're going to get probably, 10 athletes. I
Hmm.
mean, just like they can do it all type thing.
Hmm.
So when you only have a school of maybe 200,
Right.
boy, like that's that's saying something.
Yeah.
And I had a
I,
teammate
I,
in high school that was like
I,
a five sport guy just
Yeah,
because he was
holy
that guy.
crap. Yeah. I get that. And I did
Yeah.
when I coached high school in Illinois, we were a two class system. And I kind of like that because that was at least a divider of like call it big school,
Mhm.
small school, et cetera. We've now gone to three. And again, I'm not a big fan of when it becomes so many. Like I grew up in Alabama where when I was there, and I think it's actually more now, when I was there, we had six classes. For
Yep.
Alabama, there's more kids in Chicago, not even the whole state of Illinois, just
Yeah.
Chicago than there is in Alabama. In Chicago, Illinois was doing it two classes and we were doing it six, and it watered it down. Plus, if you don't have a one class system, you don't get the movie Hoosiers.
True. Very true. But like I also think of it from like my time growing up where like the Lower Peninsula of Michigan had four classes and the Upper Peninsula had a separate three.
The UP had three.
The UP still has three classes all on their own. They
Isn't
do a
there?
state meet on the same site, same location,
Is
and
that
the Lower
right?
Peninsula does four different sites for each division.
I imagine there's only two people who even live in the UP.
Well, I mean, you got to imagine that the qualifying standards up there are not as
Sure.
strong
Yeah, of
as
course, of
the
course.
Lower Peninsula simply
Yeah.
because they get a little bit better weather down south,
Yeah, of
right?
course. Well, yeah,
Um,
exactly. Yeah, you're calling you're calling Southern
yeah.
Michigan, Lansing, Ypsilanti, and more, the Southern.
Oh yeah, yeah.
It's more north. I love it. All right,
Well,
Sean,
and
let's get into it.
yeah,
We can talk about more
yeah,
uh,
yeah, yeah.
later, but I want to learn more about you, my friend. Let's get in our Wayback Machine here. My favorite question. It's my first question I ask every single guest. Assuming you were an athlete, and we certainly know that what assuming does, and we've certainly had great coaches here who were not track and field athletes. But for you, Sean, where in the world does track and field start?
Oddly enough, it starts with two best friends in freshman year of high school saying, if you don't join track, we're not going to be able to hang out after school.
Okay, peer pressure. You gotta love. There's good peer pressure
Uh-huh.
in the world. I
Yeah.
love that.
So I remember calling my mom and dad saying, hey, my buddies Matt and Brandon are staying after for this track meeting. Can I stay after? And they wanted me to get involved in something, just be a part of anything. And not that I was antisocial, but I did like middle school football in fourth and eighth grade. Yeah, it was like, it's an okay experience. I mean,
Hmm.
when you're playing two-way football for an entire season
Hmm.
because you don't have the numbers, it wears on you a bit.
Hmm.
Um, so I started track freshman year, and we had a kind of knowledgeable guy helping out in the throws, right? But it
Did
was like,
did you know about track?
So I
And
did.
maybe the better question is like
Yeah.
where your level of knowledge in track and field is 95 out of 100 today. When you
Yeah.
and when the boys were like, "Hey, you got to come join us track," did you know like, okay, there's shot and discus? I know there's running events, or did you like, all right, I've seen an Olympics once. Where were you?
I knew enough about it because I have two older sisters, one of which did track.
Oh yeah, okay.
Um, and she had done track in high school and then did track at UD Mercy.
Oh yeah.
And she was doing it right around the time that women's pole vault became a collegiate event at the NCAA
Mm-hmm.
level, right?
Mm-hmm.
So she was this weird combo of doing discus, hammer, weight, and pole vault.
Yeah. Yeah, we had that back then.
Yeah. And so it was, I mean, it was wild, right? But I remember going to see a meet of hers when I was in high school. I think it was like a state final or a regional.
Mhm.
And then I remember seeing one of her college meets, like my freshman year, with my buddies. And just remember thinking, all right, I can do this. Like,
Mhm.
yeah, like
Yeah.
this is okay. Now, shot was never my big thing. I never had like a great push from here.
Mhm.
But discus, man, I could sling that thing. So I was like,
Yeah.
all right, like let's dive in. And
What was it like the first time? So your freshman year, you go join practice, you go over to throws, and they put a 12-pound shot in your hand, or the 1.6 discus in your hand. What was that feeling? Do you even remember that? Or
yeah, I remember picking up that shot and saying, this is freaking heavy. Um,
just you wait.
uh-huh. Well, and again, we had a guy that was helping out with throws. He was a nice guy, knew a little bit, right?
Mhm.
But I remember trying to think, okay, I know what the statue of Discopolis looks like from Greek times. That must
Hmm.
be how I wind up. Like that must be how a stand throw looks, right? And so I've got, and this will date me for anyone out there. I have VHS tape that
Nice.
shows me winding up like the statue, and I'm just like, I look at it now and I just cringe. I'm just,
Hmm. Hmm.
um,
To give you some understanding of when a young kid comes to your program and is like,
yeah.
yeah, you throw it like a frisbee, and you're like, well, what do you think? And it's like, well, they don't know. You didn't know. There's just we're
So
rookies in this world.
I think I had a little advantage over my teammates
Hmm.
slightly because I looked at things a little differently.
Okay.
Okay. Now, saying that, there's context. I had a younger sister who was autistic, and she was lower functioning, no formal speech communication, no
Hmm.
typing, no writing, could make some sounds, but for all intents and purposes, I helped my parents kind of raise her, right?
Hmm.
I mean, when I wasn't doing sports, it was, helping take care of her,
Right.
right? So when you have someone that views the world so differently like that, you have to start viewing the world differently too. How do you
Mm.
phrase things? How do you say things? How do you look at what's really important and what matters? And so it allowed me the base to be able to ask the questions and say, okay,
Interesting.
what is actually important about this throw? Like what I understand I'm not doing A, B, and C, but what about D and E and F?
Hmm.
Like, do those matter or can I just put those to the back burner till later? Right.
Hmm.
And so I worked it like a process, and my mom and dad, who are love him to death, right? Um, my dad was a sports guy. He was a wrestler and football player, and never did track. Well, I mean, he did it in middle school, like on a
Hmm.
cinder track, right?
Yeah.
Um, my mom wasn't a track person, so my dad, though, he's like, all right, if we're gonna do this, like, let's help you out. And so, like, my program didn't have a whole lot, so he's like, um, here's some discs and some shots, and here's a video on how to do it.
Yeah.
And it was one of those old Mac Wilkins, Al Feuerbach type things.
Nice.
Um, and then eventually like a John Powell one. And so like I would just sit there and I would watch those things. I would like burn the VCR like and just hours and
Did
hours.
you said you had an older sister that threw? Was there some like hand me down? Like, did he do this with sister as well? And like some of these
No, no.
videos?
So my sisters are from my mom's first marriage.
Okay, got it.
And
Okay.
so they're like 8 and 9 years older.
Yep, yep, got it.
Um,
Yeah, so they're yeah,
so
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's a whole different generation at this point. Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
and they lived with their dad
Got
through their high school years. So
got
like
it.
that's why I only saw a couple of their
Mm-hmm,
competitions.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Um, but no, my parents were always super supportive of
Yeah,
me trying to be my best in whatever I was doing, right?
yeah,
And
very
so,
cool.
but they were also leaders and managers, and so like for them, like my dad was a chief information officer at the VA Medical Center in Battle Creek. My mom was a
Ah,
um, nurse manager for behavioral health resources. I mean,
yeah,
so like I had leaders in my household every day setting the tempo, right?
right.
And so that was a really good foundation to hold me accountable, number one,
Yeah.
because I was not the guy to be easily held accountable.
Mm-hmm,
I had to learn that the hard way.
mm-hmm,
Um, but it set the example for how do you treat people? How do you take care of the people who are taking care of you, right? And how do you conduct yourself in the best possible way?
mm-hmm,
And
mm-hmm.
so those are skills that I am forever grateful for.
Yeah.
Uh,
You mentioned VHS tapes. Help us give us some
yeah.
framework of time wise. What year did you graduate high school?
I graduated in 2005.
Yeah, see, you make me feel older when you go, 2005, because that's so long ago.
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
graduated in 94, so relax, buddy. You graduated high school the year before I got to Gill. That's how young you are, Sean. So let's
There you
relax
go.
here on your let me have you step to the side of your old man podium and get down a little. I will take the old man podium here. Okay, so 2005. So it's pre-YouTube. It's funny.
Yep.
I think of YouTube being around forever. It actually started like in '06 and was nothing what it is today until like around 08, 09. So you're kind of years away from any kind of YouTube. You do have the internets, and what I mean by that is like you could Google
Uh-huh.
like how to throw the discus. There were some websites like that.
There was one track and field website that um that I used a lot as a resource because they always posted photos from the meet.
Mm-hmm.
And so they would have like, I mean, I
What
can't
was that
remember
site?
who the, but it, so I don't like know if I can say the web. I don't think it's out there anymore, so I
Yeah.
think it's okay. It was Track Shark.
Oh, dude, that was my jam. Love
I know,
Track Shark.
right?
Tom Barish, Borish, Barish.
Yeah,
He was a Kent State grad. Dude, the Track Shark was like, why can't we get Track Shark back? I mean,
no kidding.
God
I mean, between the
bless.
forums and the photos, like, I mean,
Dude,
those were gold, right?
Track Shark was a big part of me getting my quote unquote dream job. I always wanted to work in the SEC.
Yeah.
And so from Ball State to Mississippi State, I had an athlete. So Tom, the guy who ran Track Shark, was a MAC guy. Like I said, he went to Kent State.
Mhm.
And so he was definitely a national, like he paid attention to the whole country as far as
Yeah,
track and
yeah,
field. But MAC kids got a little more, he was not going to miss out on a MAC kid. And I had a really, really
yeah.
good long jump, triple jumper, 21 feet, almost 22, and 43, almost 44 feet. And so she was on there a lot. And the guys at Mississippi State was like, well, wait a minute, who's coaching that gal? Because she's doing really good. And that was
Yeah.
part of how I got that job. So, dude, I love
Oh
truck.
yeah.
I got to hunt down Tom. And what is he doing today? Because
Right.
he's a little bit like you obviously were on Die Stat at some form or
Yeah, yeah,
fashion. Yeah.
yeah.
So like John Dye, rest in peace. Like these Tom and John, these like not pre-internet, but like early adopters of the internet for media for our sport.
Mhm.
They set the path, and I'm not sure, Let's Run has picked up the mantle. Track and Field News is a great news aggregate.
Yeah.
I've had E. Gary Hill on the podcast before as well, and I told him that Track and Field News, and this still stands today. I did it this morning. Is like my Wall Street Journal. Like the
Yes.
very first thing I do when I get in the morning is go to Track and Field News, look at the news little headline section, which articles do I want to read. It's still valuable, but it's not Track Shark, it's not Dice Dad. Love that.
It had that community feel, right? With Track
Yes,
Shark.
yes.
And yeah, there were
Wait,
forums
wait.
and
You
whatnot, but
you
like
don't get that community feel from the Let's Run forums?
I feel like I get more of the let's gripe.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
Like let's
exactly.
run in parentheses, let's
Yeah,
complain.
yeah.
Than anything else. And nothing against let's run because I
Yeah,
think there is a
no.
lot of value to it.
Yeah, I don't know
But
about that.
I think it's just different, right?
Yeah.
But you got to understand, like for me, because the internet was, relatively new with some of those things, and we
Yep,
didn't
yep.
have the YouTubes and stuff,
Right.
I would go and I would look at all the stills from people throwing, and then I would compare the different positions they had in throwing
Oh,
and say, all right,
interesting.
what is it biomechanically? I didn't realize it was biomechanics at the
Right,
time,
right,
right?
right,
But I'm
right.
like, what are they doing with their arm and their leg? And like, why am I not doing that? What is the value of this,
Did
right?
you tackle other things in your life like that? Like, are you doing this in science class or math class? Are you doing this, you played other sports or you watch other sports or, you had a buddy in another sport. Were you watching like how your buddy took a swing in baseball? Like, or is this because it's become a passion of yours at this early age?
Um, I don't know if it had become a passion yet.
Okay.
I mean, I think what it was my mom and dad always had this way of showing me all the steps of how something worked, right?
Mm,
Especially
mm.
my dad. My dad, just brilliant guy, but he would be like, all right, here's this. And then he'd ask, why do you think this is? Like what happens because of this? And
Hmm.
he would, start to lead the questions. I mean, and how he would teach those kind of form the base for how I coach, right?
Hmm.
Because it's that guided discovery piece
Hmm.
of, all right, like
Hmm.
we'll give you enough to be dangerous, but now what can you do with it once you have it,
Right,
right?
right.
And so I started approaching it from that point. And so like he would go down with me to the field and we'd spend 4 hours and set up a VHS camera and just we record it and then we'd come
Wow.
back and we'd sit through and we'd pour through it and say, all right, like, well, here's what I'm doing here and here's what I'm doing there. And so I
Wow.
think those are the things that really gave me the base for the video analysis that I would use later on,
Right,
especially when
right.
things like Dartfish and Coach's Eye and
Mm,
all those other things came out, right?
mm-hmm.
And so I think that's where the pieces came into play. Now,
So,
I think there's also context to be said. We didn't have anybody pushing us in the weight room,
sure.
and so I wasn't like I hardly spent any time in the weight room.
Right, right, right.
I really did, maybe 4 or 5 days, right? Um, but I was drilling for hours before
Mm.
my bus would come in the morning.
So what kind of, so how does that parlay to your coach? Because today we'll have some complaints about, these kids get to see every workout in the I can go on Instagram right now and I
Yeah.
know what they're doing in California for shot putting today, and then down in Florida, and I easily get to go to my coach and be like, hey, well, how come we're not doing this drill, or how come I'm not throwing as far as this guy? You didn't have that, but you're doing a lot of extracurricular activity. I'm
Yeah.
assuming that not every thrower in your team was going out 4 hours, filming,
No.
going back. Right, exactly. How did that pair with your coach?
My coach was very much I don't know anything about throws, so the more you know, the better.
Okay.
He was a great guy. Like he knew people.
Hmm.
He was very good at the mental piece with people. And like for an athlete myself, when I struggled with the mental of like being able to lock in and focus, or I'd let the stage or the circumstance overwhelm me,
Hmm.
he was able to dial me back in.
Hmm.
And so that was essential to who I
Yeah.
became, right? Um, but no, he was very much like, all right, you want to do this, you want to do that. Like one of the biggest things we talked about was because at the time, rotational was becoming much bigger, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you had the one throw that comes to mind. I mean, yeah, you got like the Adam Nelsons and the Reese Hoffas and
Hmm.
whatnot. But like I remember Laura Garrity from North Carolina,
Yeah. Hmm.
and she just had a beautiful rotation of the shot. Um, I remember telling my coach like, "Hey, I'm not a really effective glider. Like I'm just not. I'm not strong enough. I don't have a good push, but I'm a decent discus thrower. So I think maybe the rotation is the way to
Hmm.
go."
Hmm.
And he fought me on it for 3 years. And my senior year, I said, you know what? Like this is it. I've got to do this. Like we're going this route. And it was one of those first times where I was like, all right, we're going to take a stand here and say, nope, this is the line. Let's go. And so Michigan has a unofficial indoor season called the
Hmm.
Michigan Indoor Track Series.
Yeah, mitts. Yeah.
And so I would go to meets at like Albion and Hillsdale College and Grand Valley
Hmm.
before they got their big indoor facility,
Hmm.
right? Like when the home stretch was under the bleachers, which was just crazy. Um, I'd go to those and I spent an entire indoor season honing my rotation so I was ready for the spring
Mm.
because I didn't want to like be fixing it going into anything. And my average throws jumped up 6 feet.
Nice.
Um, I was bringing home medals for the team and points for the team that we needed to be successful.
Hmm.
And it was one of those like I missed going to state by 3 inches in a
Right.
shot, which I hadn't been competitive in um, for the last 3 years. So I was
Yeah.
like, man, like there's something here. Like I have to do this, right? I
Right.
just got to keep going with it. So I knew that that was good. So he was supportive at that point of being like, all right, you clearly know enough to like maybe give me some ideas as to like what maybe this kid should do, that kid should do.
Hmm.
Um, and then I got to college, and that's
Okay.
where
Don't
things were
don't
kind
go
of
there just yet. Hold on before we
yeah,
get to
yeah, yeah,
college. So where is you're doing some I'm always fascinated because spoiler alert, we know you become a track coach, but
yeah,
at
yeah.
16, 17 years old we didn't necessarily know. uh where is coaching in your mind as a high schooler? Like, are you thinking like I'm going to be a come, because you're doing some obviously coach things, right?
Yeah.
Videoing, analysis. You had to do a lot of experimentation moving from the glide to the rotation. Are you thinking at this point coach, or are you thinking firefighter or doctor or lawyer?
I didn't know what I wanted to do next.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, I was very open about the fact that I had no idea.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but like my sophomore through senior year, I was actually coaching our middle school throwers for an hour before our high school
Mm-hmm.
practice, right? So like I was kind of already doing it in
Mm-hmm.
like a very unofficial,
Mm-hmm.
like no authority capacity,
Right, right.
um, because I wanted them to be better than we were.
Yeah.
Right?
I wonder, it's funny, you just said that and I was like, oh, in my head I was like, yeah, you were helping, you weren't coaching. But then I was like, well, what's the difference between helping and coaching? And maybe authority is the right, because you said without authority, I was like,
Yeah.
maybe that's what moves from, and it's not demeaning. I don't mean it demeaning when I say you were
No, no,
helping, not
not at all.
coaching, but it's like, oh, I wonder if that is that authority piece was there. Okay, so you're not like, we've had some people here like, man, at
Yeah.
16 I knew I was going to be a coach. You're still like, okay, I love this. I'm loving the sport. I'm having success in it, but I don't. I mean, again, you're 17, 18 years old. What
Yeah.
do you know? You know nothing. I don't know what I want to be.
I knew that I liked the version of myself when I was competing. That's about
Interesting.
as much as I knew.
T
Like
Tell me more.
I
Let's double click into that. What does that mean?
yeah.
How was Sean when he was competing different from Sean walking around the hallways or Sean sitting at the dinner table?
So the Sean walking the hallway sitting around the dinner table didn't have the direction,
Mm,
didn't really have the sense of purpose, right? It's just kind of
mm,
I guess we figure this out. I guess this is what everyone does. You go to college, then you get the job, and then
mm-hmm,
you pay the bills, whatever. Um, but Sean in a sport was like, here is the goal. Go achieve the goal.
mm, hmm.
Go do this. These are things that we have to do to achieve. Like, and so I love wearing the colors. I think that's one of the things I love the most is like being a part of something bigger than yourself,
Yeah,
right?
interesting.
And track was perfect because while in high school I didn't necessarily have the utmost faith in some teammates, right? Like if we did a relay invite, I hated them because I didn't want to rely on another person's effort and abilities to dictate how we did, right?
Hmm.
But I would give everything I had to try and help them, achieve something higher. So like track was great because I could individually succeed, but still contribute to that team effort.
Right, right.
Um, so I was like, all right, I'm going to take this track thing as far as I can,
Okay.
right? And that's about all I knew. I knew I wanted to kind of get out of my small town
Yeah.
because this was a small town and again, a lot of love for it, but the theme of the town was you're either going to leave the town and then go work in a factory or a farm,
Mm,
or you're going to go to community college for 2 years and
hmm.
then work on a factory or a farm.
Right, 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 right.
And I
So
didn't want to do that.
senior year, you want to try to take this sport as far as
Yep.
possible. What were you thinking? What did you explore, and where did you end up going? And
Yeah.
what did you end up at first, at least? Because they say the average number of times people changes a major is three, which is crazy to me. But
Yeah.
what did you at least start out with when you first got there?
So senior year, I had a few schools in mind. Being in Michigan, growing up, Grand Valley to me was like the it one,
Is
right?
that
And
right?
I,
Yeah.
I think they still kind of are, especially for throwers, right? Like n nothing against places like Michigan and Michigan State and
Yeah.
Eastern,
Yeah.
all fantastic programs. And even Central Michigan when they had the men's program at the time,
Hmm. Hmm.
like just great programs. But there was something about going to meets at Grand Valley and seeing those athletes have such a tight-knit community and building each other up, always cheering each other on, supporting each other. And for me, those environments are where success happens, right? And so I was like, all right, I want to go to something like that. And so like I looked outside of my state a little bit. I looked at Allegheny College
Hmm.
and coach, I think it was Bill Ross was there at the time. Didn't know how great of a throws guy he was until like later. I was like, oh my God, shot myself in the foot being like, why didn't I do that? Um, I looked at Saginaw Valley State
Hmm.
and that was a good one, but it was much farther away, and I wanted to be far enough away from home where I could be independent, but close enough where I could still go home because I was still super very close with my mom and dad, right?
Hmm.
And whenever I need to help out with my sister, I could.
Right.
So I chose Ferris State.
Yeah, you're a bulldog. Nice.
Yeah, well, kind of,
You became a
kind of.
bulldog for okay.
So I got up there my freshman year, and when you are at a small high school, sometimes your counselors don't know everything they need to make sure you're prepared for college,
Mm,
like not knowing about the NCAA clearinghouse
mm,
and not knowing that one of your math classes, because of how it's named, only counted as half a credit.
mm.
And so I came in and they're like, yeah, you're going to have to redshirt this year.
Oh
I was
man.
like, oh,
How'd that make
okay.
you feel? You're excited. You found
Yep.
when you were describing Sean competing versus Sean in the hallways or Sean at the dinner table,
Yeah.
I kept thinking of the words focus and direction.
Yeah.
So you got
This
some
is where
focus, you
the
got some direction, and
this is where the train comes off the tracks again.
yeah.
So I find out I'm going to redshirt, and I was like, all right, that's fine. A lot of athletes redshirt, no biggie.
Did you even know
As
what
long
that
as I get
meant?
my degree in 4, then I'm good,
Yeah,
right?
I was wondering, like, we're talking about 18-year-old kids. Did they even know what redshirt? Did you know what that meant, or did
I
someone have to like
did,
really
yeah. Like
explain it to you?
I mean, my dad and I, we had talked about college football a lot, right? Just because we're fans of the sport, not that I
Right, right, right,
had
right.
any intention of playing. So we'd always talked about the red shirt versus, like the medical gray shirt and like
Got it.
this and that. So like
Mm-hmm.
those kind of conversations were always happening.
Got it.
So I was like, all right, cool. I know it. If I'm talented enough, somebody will probably want to redshirt me my freshman year to get me stronger, get me used to the
Mm-hmm.
program.
Hmm.
Because and I told this to a lot of recruits when I was coaching the college level. Freshman year is the hardest year of college
Sure.
by far because new environment, new routines, new people. Like it is, for lack of better phrasing, it is hell to go through.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so if you can make it through freshman year, this and the studies show this too, you're 70% more likely to graduate,
Hmm.
right? So you just got to get through the year.
Right. Right.
Um, so when I got up there, I was like, all right, cool. I'm gonna redshirt. That's all right. I've got like 4 or 5 teammates that were on the team already that were throwing far enough that they're gonna push me because I had been the top guy on my high school team in disc for like 3 years, right? I
Right.
was like, I need someone to help push me, right? If you don't have a solid training group, you're not gonna get there.
Mhm.
Then I find out that they had all quit.
Oh no.
And they had quit because they were unhappy with a few things in the program.
Mm.
And they're like, okay, cool. All of them quit. We know we recruited you, but we're going to have you do the walk-on tryouts with these walk-ons that want to come out and try out. And I was like, say what now?
Hmm.
So those things happen, and um, then trying to go through class, and I wasn't the best student, right?
Sure.
And so like I struggled so hard,
Mm-hmm.
and even though we had mandatory study hall, like I was still struggling.
Mm-hmm.
Like there wasn't that outreach for that, and at the time it was a very um, distance oriented program. So if you weren't a distance runner, then it was kind of like you're on the back burner, right?
Right.
Um, it's changed now, thank goodness. They've got a great guy in there in
Mm-hmm.
place now. But it was one of those things where I was like, man, like I had always found value in my contribution to the program, and now I'm an afterthought, and that
Mm-hmm.
was really really hard to take.
Mm-hmm.
And then through my freshman year, my mom ended up having um, an emergency surgery to remove a mass in her chest.
Oh
And
man.
so, like, I pieced out from school for a week to
Sure.
go home and be with my dad and my mom and help my
Absolutely.
sister. And I never recovered. Like, I ended up
Mm-hmm.
flunking out of the school. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I had gone and driven myself to some indoor meets and some outdoor meets. Like, I made a final at a Spartan Invite as an unattached guy. So I'm like, I knew I could throw,
Mm-hmm.
right? But it was just it was so hard to do it when you're on an island,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right? And so came back home, kind of tail tucked between my legs, like, man, this sucks. Um, but that incident is, I think, what spurred me into coaching.
Mm-hmm.
So I get back home from college, and a buddy of mine from high school who was graduating that year says, "Hey, can you come teach me the spin? Because I'm going to state, but like I'm just not hitting the distances, and no one else in our area does the spin, but you did." So it's like, all right, yeah, sure. I'll come out. And so like I went and spent a week with him because I'm like, I need to get out of my head. I just failed at this thing. I was
Right.
feeling so defeated. I was like, all right, let me help you out. We took him from a 45 to a 50 in a week.
Wow.
And I was like, man, this is like, yeah, like I was starting to feel that bug again. I started to feel
Mm-hmm.
like, all right, here's some purpose, right? Like maybe I was not the guy who was the best student or the best athlete or, whatever. But I've seen some pitfalls that I've made.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I can prevent someone else from making those same mistakes.
Hmm.
And so I was like, all right, let's help you out with this. Now, he didn't have a great day at state final, but after that, I was like, I got to keep doing this. Like, I don't know
Yeah.
what I'm going to do with my life, but I got to keep doing this
That's kind of the proverbial when the bug hit, when the bug bit you.
very much.
Yeah.
So I end up coaching at my old high school, along
Mm-hmm.
with my old head coach as a volunteer assistant.
Mm-hmm.
And um, we had a great year there. And
Not
then,
going to school. So you did a year
no,
at
I
Ferris.
No, I went to community college
Yeah,
and
okay.
tried to like
Got it.
knock some horses out.
I was going to ask, how did mom and dad allow you not to at least go to the community college? I was
No,
wondering
no, no,
about
no,
that.
no.
Yeah.
They were very, very
Yeah.
supportive of that
That's why I was like, well, the way you describe mom and dad, don't feel like they just let you sleeping on the couch while you go volunteer at the high school. You're doing something around
Oh,
here.
don't get me wrong. I got my ass handed to me when I came. Like I did on a platter,
Sure, sure.
but it was rightfully so,
Yeah, right,
right? Like
right,
I screwed up. That's on me. That's on anybody
right,
else.
right,
Um, and so owning that, is good because there are sometimes people don't own it, right? They'll blame
right,
everyone else
right,
but the person who's really
right.
responsible.
So
So
you're done throwing, at least at this point.
yeah, like
Yeah.
I was like, all right, like it'd be fun to throw here and
Mm-hmm.
there, but
Mm-hmm.
man, I was so locked in. All right, cool. This is my role. This is my job. I can
Yeah.
do this. I know I can help people get better.
Mm-hmm.
And we had some good throwers and we did some really good things. And we did that for 2 years. And then I had made the transition over to Western Michigan University.
So you got your associates and then
Yep.
transferred to a 4 year. Uh-huh.
Yep. And when I was at Western, I was like, okay, I want to get back in this. And I told my folks, I'm like, I want to live on campus in the transfer dorm. So I'm with people who are in that same boat that I'm in. So at least I'm, again, part of the team,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I remember getting over there and connecting with their throws coach at the time, Bill Griffey.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So Bill Griffey runs the Next Throws Club out of
Mm-hmm.
Plainwell and whatnot in
Yeah.
Michigan.
Yeah.
He is, if I had a throws mentor, I think it's him,
Yeah.
right?
Did he just I was just at Virginia Beach for Division 2. Did his son?
His son is throwing there.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes, yes. That's right. Who did I might have been ran into the Grand Valley coach actually, now that I think about it. And they
Yeah.
mentioned him and I was like, "Oh, but I haven't seen Bill in forever." So,
Oh,
oh, yeah, that's so cool.
like
Good dude,
if
good
there
dude.
is a first class person, Bill Griffey is it.
He's a good dude. Good dude.
Like, no, he's a great dude. I mean, he's phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I remember going up into his track office at Western saying, hey, like I'm kind of looking to help out. Like, I'd love to help the program, just because I'd heard of volunteer assistants at those levels. And I was like, okay, like, because when I was at Ferris, we didn't have a specific throws coach. It was me
Mm-hmm.
trying to learn the weight and hammer on my own.
Mm-hmm.
We had a parent that was helping out, and
Mm-hmm.
I get a lot of love to Mr. Barrington, who was trying to help out, but like,
You
it was sporadic.
had you said you graduated in '05, so just before you, around '02 and '03, you had a really good throws coach early in his career, a guy named Paul Bruschi.
Mhm.
Because that's how I met Paul, was when he was at Fair. That's how I even knew what
Yep.
Ferris was, when I was at Ball State and met him at a meet in Indy. And he's
Yeah.
also a Gill podcast alum, and he's a phenomenal coach. I mean, he's done an amazing job. Now the head coach at the University of South Alabama. But when he went back down to Alabama, the consistency didn't stay there. So yeah, you guys had some
Yeah.
instability there for sure. And I was
Yeah.
going to ask, when you went to Bill Griffey's office, like, you still had eligibility, but Western had dropped their men's program a long time ago.
Yeah. They dropped it when I was, I think, like a freshman or sophomore in high school.
Yeah, yeah. So there is no that. There is no trying
Yeah.
to rekindle the magic. Yeah.
Which was so tough because they had just signed this like 204-foot discus thrower in our state.
Oh, wow.
And they're like, well, we can honor this or you can go somewhere else. He's like, nope, I'll just get my degree. We're good.
Is that right?
I was like,
Wow.
oh my God.
Yeah.
Like that was hard to see. But no,
Yeah.
I wasn't
This
thinking
is
about rekindling a program. I
this
was
is
just,
complete judgment about that attitude of that kid that you just said. Complete judgment. That guy,
yeah,
he may
yeah.
be listening right now. He may be the CEO of Apple for all I know, but that seems like a guy who was not going to be successful throwing in college anyway. If he was willing to just let it go,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? There's a little bit of a lack of fire in that. Judgment, complete judgment. I openly admit I am judging from two sentences you just said about that man, but it was like, you just stayed and didn't throw. I'm not sure it was going to be successful for you, my friend.
I'll give you that judgment with a little judgment back, though. I think it's much easier for throwers to have that mentality than it is for a runner or jumper because runners and jumpers tend to get um, more funding and support after college anyways than throwers
Sean,
do.
Sean, you said this kid threw 200 feet out of high school,
Yeah.
and he's signing with Western Michigan.
Yeah.
And then Western Michigan drops their program.
Yeah.
There were at least 10 other really good throws programs
Oh yeah.
within 2 hours that would have taken him in a heartbeat.
there are.
And
But
instead, he was like, I'm just gonna be a Bronco. I'm just gonna be
yeah,
just gonna be a student. That seems a little lack of for throwing fire. Now he may. Here's why I say
right,
for throwing
right.
fire because he may have been like, yeah, I came here because of their exercise science, whatever. I am
Yeah,
gonna,
yeah.
and God bless him. And I hope he is extremely successful right now. Anyway, so what did you talk to Bill about?
So I said, hey, like, is there any way I can like help out or anything like that I can do, or just I want to be helpful. And at the time, he's like, hey, um, let's have some more chats, let's have some more conversations, and we did, right? We had a couple more, and he's like, look, Portage Northern High School has an
Hmm.
opening for a throws person, and they got a kid throwing 190. His name is Andrew Evans.
Hmm.
And I remember looking at Bill in his office, and I was like, Bill, I've just coached at a little rinky-dink like Division 4. I don't know if I can help a kid who's throwing 190 yet. Like
Hmm.
I don't know if I believe in my abilities enough yet to be able to give that kid what they need to be successful.
But you believed you could coach Division 1 women?
No, I thought if there's any way I could help out, even if it's just getting coffee or doing something, right? Like
Okay,
I
so
could
you
like
weren't thinking like, oh, I can come in here and coach. Bill, you want me to take the discus? You take the shot. No, it was
no, no, no.
okay.
I
I
was
just want
just
to help. Okay, got it.
I wanted to come into a program and try and pay my dues
Yep.
in
Okay, this
any
makes
way
sense.
I could,
That makes
right?
sense. Okay.
Like whatever needed to be stapled or to
Yep.
be
Yep.
handed
I'm
out,
I'm
like
I'm with you. Okay. Gotcha.
yeah.
Gotcha. Yep.
Because I figured if I was going to be in college, like why not, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, but he's like, if you're looking at like helping out though and want
Notice
to
that
coach,
that 200-foot freshman didn't come over to Bill and say, "Hey, they dropped the program. I want to stay here though." And I'm good. I'm just saying.
yeah, no,
I hope
I
we
get it,
find
I
who
get
that
it.
kid is, man. And I hope he blasts me and says, "Bro, I stayed and got an amazing degree and have a great family and own my own whatever." I hope he blasts me, but
Yeah.
I'm just saying, I'm not sure he would have been all that great in college.
Well, after telling him I don't think I'm ready to help a 190 thrower, he's like, hey, Lawton High School, that's another like 40 some odd minutes down the road is looking for people too. I was like, okay. So I go down there, I interview for that, and I get that. And we do some really good things their program for a couple years. Had kids who like would win conference and regionals and like shot and disc and just do some really solid things. We had uh, we had some very, very competitive kids. One young lady who would actually go on to throw for Bill.
Mhm.
Um, that was in our conference and we just could not beat. She was awesome. Um, but no, like we were really competitive and we helped them win was it 3 or 4 conference titles and 2 regional titles
Mhm.
in 2 years.
And
And
while
so
you're
like
doing that, you're finishing your undergrad at Western?
working on it. So
Yeah, yeah,
again,
yeah,
like
yeah.
I'm just like not the best student, right? So like
Mhm.
I'm taking the long way about this. And I kept going back to the counseling office and feeling like I was getting different answers, right? And it it was never like, hey, I just did the things you asked me to do. And it's like, well, but there's these other things too. And I kept feeling like I was getting the running around. So I said, you know what? I just need a break for a minute. Like I feel like I'm a little directionless right now because no one can give me a straight answer as to what needs to be done. And so I stopped for a bit and I was still coaching. I went back and coached one more year at my old high school, um, just because it was my old head coach's last year. I
Mhm.
was trying to help him, right? Um, After that, though, I was going to coach privately because I still had the bug, wanted to do what we needed to do. Still feeling a little directionless, right? And then I go to a meet because the guy that coached that 200 footer was supposed to be at this meet. And I was like, you know what? I want to go pick his brain. I want to go like I want to go see what his throwers do, see how they warm up, see how they compete,
Mhm.
and then I want to ask him like just a ton of questions,
Mhm.
right? So I show up to Portage Northern the day of the meet, and there is no meet. They had it wrong on their schedule online. It's a practice, and so I walk down, and um, the throws coach at the time, a woman named Shelby Cummings, just phenomenal woman, right? she's like, "Can I help you?" I'm just like, yeah, I look like this weirdo just like showing up to some high school practice, right?
Right, right,
I was like, look, I'm a throws coach. I heard there was a meet today. I just kind of wanted to come and watch a meet.
right.
Like that's really all it is. She's like, oh, like you coach throws. I'm like, yeah, I do a little. I mean, I've, at that point hadn't had much experience, but we coach a couple different schools. We'd
Mm,
had some success. So I was like, yeah, I'm I know a little, right? Um, she said, okay, well, the meet's tomorrow if you want to come back and help out at the meet. I was like, okay, yeah, I'll come back and help out the meet. So I came back, helped out the meet, and she said, hey, if you want, maybe you can come back and help out shot the next day.
mm,
I was like, okay, yeah, sure. I'll come back and help out shot. And Shelby knows her stuff, right? Like Shelby was a thrower for Purdue.
mm,
So like she wasn't a slacker by any stretch. And so I helped her with shot for a day, and then we kind of like helped finish out the rest of the season. And she said, hey, um, I'm not going to be doing this next year. I recommended you to our head coach.
mm,
And I was like, oh, this is great. This is cool. And again, it's like kind of like kismet, right? Because we had the opportunity for Portage Northern,
mhm,
didn't take it. Now we're back at it. Um, Spring rolls around. The head coach, a guy named Aaron Kaler, just again, great guy. Um, he was a kind of jack of all trades guy, right? Like he's very good on the head coach and the paperwork piece. Uh, Specialized more in high jump than anything else. But he I think showed me the best way to trust your coaches that know their stuff,
mm,
right? Like he surrounded himself with people that knew way more than he did about the different event areas and then gave them the trust to do what they need to do for their athletes.
mm,
I was like, man, this is phenomenal. This is great how this feels, right? And we would all talk together and we'd all work together. And like we always had meetings about like what you're doing and they're doing. And so everyone kind of knew the page we were all on, right?
mm,
Like it was wonderful. It felt like being on a team again, right? And
mhm, mhm,
like, yes, this is good. Um, but I get there in the spring and he's like, hey, forgot about you. Had already picked up two other people to help.
Oh,
I
yeah.
was like, yeah, that's hard. He's like, but if you want, I mean, you can still come volunteer. I was
Mhm,
like, all right, I'm a glutton for punishment. Let's do it. Let's go. Like, yeah, like whatever we got to do to coach, right?
mhm, mhm,
So I show up there, and there were two fellas, a guy named John Mayer, no, not the singer, um, and a guy named Gary Vanderbilt. And they're working on the throw stuff, and I'm trying to take a backseat to it. And at one point, we're doing drills in this auxiliary gym, and I was like, I have an idea, like John, like, do you mind? Because he's like, yeah, some of these kids aren't quite getting this. I was like, can I try something? He's like, yeah, sure. And so I start walking kids through drills and technical pieces. He's like, okay, yeah, well, nope, you're good. Like, we're gonna let you like kind of do your thing. Um, Gary, who was definitely more strength and conditioning based. He was a big football guy. He was a Western Michigan football guy too back in the
mhm,
day. Played with Terry Crews and then like when they won a
mhm,
championship. So like, but again, like this was a program that surrounded itself with great people. And Gary, lifelong friend, just I can't thank Gary enough for
mhm,
everything he did while we worked together, right?
mhm,
But at the time it was kind of like, well, you're a strength guy, I'm a technical guy. And we quickly got through that and realized that we had these strengths for each other and we can complement each other, right? And so we worked together, and over the next, several years, um, we built a relatively strong program in the state of Michigan. We had
mhm.
uh, consistent showings in our conference, our regional. We had state champion in 27.
How
We
did
had,
you? I'm always interested in our
yeah,
volunteer coaches because a big part of any coaching, college or high school, is recruiting.
yeah.
It's why it's absurd to me when
Mm.
if I hear the rumor, or not the rumor, but the myth that high school coaches can't coach college because they don't know about recruiting. It's like, man, every high school coach I've ever had on here tells you how important it is to walk those hallways and get those kids. As a volunteer coach, meaning, and I shouldn't say that way, as a non-teaching coach, you're not in the hallways, in the morning. How did you get those people out? I mean, it's great to coach them, but they got to be out there first.
So my after my first year of like helping out the program, um, a position opened up in the middle school that shared the
Mm,
same campus.
mm-hmm.
And so I said, okay. And it was a paraprofessional position and uh, hall support, administrative support, right?
Mm-hmm.
Kind of the catch-all, like whatever the admin needs you to do, go do it. Make
Right.
sure kids aren't loitering in the halls. And again, kind of shifted into a paraprofessional support role.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, I was like, you know what? This is great because I can see the kids in middle school, get them
Right.
involved in middle school track, and
Right.
then bring them up through the high school.
Nice. Okay. That makes sense.
And our program was unique in that our varsity head coaches could have say over the middle school coaches too. So if they
Mm,
wanted someone in there differently, they could
mm-hmm.
to keep the pipeline going. So I told our head coach, I'm like, I'd like to be the one that kind of helps make the decision on the middle school throws coach.
Mm-hmm.
And so we had a couple of guys over the time that I was there that were good at what they did, but they did the same drills we did, the same terminology we did, so that
Yeah.
kids had that flow. Um, but we also would do some club stuff with our kids in the winter, right? You know,
Mm-hmm.
weight and hammer and stuff. Well, winter and summer. And
Mm-hmm.
so we would have a steady group that would go and do weight throw,
Mm-hmm.
right? And we'd go to those meets. And so our kids who weren't the best found a place to be,
Mm-hmm.
be it
Mm-hmm.
kids.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and we really built a fun culture there. And so,
You've got amazing people around you. Some
yeah,
great coaches. You talked about Joe Frontier, another Gill podcast alum. Um, are you doing any? So I call that kind of stuff informal coaching education. Still very valuable. Not
yeah.
saying I mean, peer to peer is. I mean,
Hmm.
I think that's part of why we're seeing this quote unquote trackflation that we have there. Is we're just better at communicating with each other and sharing ideas and
Yes.
being willing to try different things. The formal side of coaching education is USATF, USTFCCCA, Altus, etc. Are you doing any of that at this point?
So at that point, I hadn't done that yet.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Um, like when I first got to Northern, I that wasn't in my mind. I had done like 5 or 6 years of doing the Michigan track coaches
Oh yeah,
convention
one of the
every
good
spring,
ones. Yeah, they
right?
do a great
And
job.
so we'd go to Micca every spring before the
Mm-hmm.
track season started.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that was kind of my first foray into the formal coaching education.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, but then when I was in Portage, I was like, all right, we're going to be at this level. We need to step it up.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was, I think probably 2014, 2015, somewhere in there. I was like, I'm going to go to USATF level one.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I went to it down in Marion University in Indianapolis.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And we had Larry Judge was one of the guys that helped out.
Mm-hmm.
And that was really kind of cool to pick his brain too and
Yeah,
go through those things.
it's amazing.
But it also increased my love for the other events too,
Mm.
right? Because like I was always a fan of the other events, the running, jumping, and even distance running, right? Like I mean, to be a distance runner is a special gift.
Mm-hmm.
It really is. Um, but it really gave me a better appreciation for all those.
Yeah.
And being technically minded, it was nice to see where all the puzzle pieces kind of fit in.
Mm-hmm.
So I did that. And then through my time at Portage Northern, we'd had a lot of success. We, had kids do well on hammer and weight and just the whole gamut, right? Well, get to 2019, and my wife, who was working in the banking side, had lost a job due to downsizing,
Mm-hmm.
right? But found another job with Quicken Loans in Detroit, which was great for her and our family because she was going to be able to live closer to her mom and her siblings, and they were very tight knit. It was a little hard for us because we had just gotten a brand new track, like brand new
Mm-hmm.
throws facility I helped design.
Right.
And so I'm just like, oh my gosh, I don't even get to see the grass fully grow
Right.
in.
Right.
Um, but then there was also the scary thing of like, where do I coach next?
Mm.
Right. And so I took an odd job flooring just to try and find something. And then I got a job in the schools just because it again, like I'm used to that. I like making a difference in people's lives. So I was like, that works. Um, but then we saw an ad pop up on, I think it was, some job search site, right? And it was for a part-time assistant thing at Rochester University, which is now
Mm.
Rochester Christian University.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I remember telling my wife, I'm like, I don't think I should. Like it it hurt a lot leaving Northern, and for multiple reasons, right? So like I left this work family I had gotten to know for like 7 years.
Right.
I left a program we had built up really well, a new facility, and then right before we left, my younger sister passed away.
Oh
Like
no.
like the day we were supposed to be getting in the moving trucks and moving out was the day she passed away. And
Uh,
so now I'm leaving family and I'm grieving, and like so I had this mental health just
yeah,
avalanche,
bro, how do you
right?
do this?
And
Yeah.
this was,
Oh.
yeah, so this was like I was not in a great place.
Mm.
Not at all. I mean, I had to go and talk to somebody, and I tried a couple different people, and it just, trying to do anything to get centered, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
But I was like, man, like I don't know if I'm in the right headspace for this and
Sure.
can help with this. And my wife's like, look, I know who you are when you're not coaching. And it's kind of a shell of who you normally are, right? Because coaching kind of helps like
Yeah.
really balance me out and fills my tank, if you will, right?
Hmm.
And so I was like, you know what? I'll go interview for it. Sure, why not? And I said, look, I can help out as a volunteer. I don't necessarily need to do the part-time thing. You don't need to pay me. Just I can come in maybe like on the weekends and help, just something, right? Just not to try and overdo it. And I had an interview with the head coach at the time, Alex Wilson. Um, And Alex was a younger coach himself too, and he was a Michigan State guy, and then had coached a little bit, I think at Wayne for a year, and then at a high school, and then was the assistant, and then kind of quickly came through to the head at Rochester. Um, but I went and I did this interview with him and the assistant AD at the time. And at the end, he's kind of like, "Well, you kind of have more qualifications than anyone else we had here. You have your level one. You have like." You, you want the job?
Yeah, right.
I was like, sure. And as soon as that happened, it was kind of funny because one of the athletes I had coached club wise back in Portage, she was going to go to Western. They had lost their whole coaching staff. They were doing a gutting of the program.
Yeah, that's right.
And so she's like, I don't know, like if my space is still there. I was like, why don't you come throw for me then for another 4 years?
Yeah.
And she's like, on it, let's go.
Wow.
So we jumped in. And then that's when like now you got to learn more about actually recruiting, right? Like
Hmm.
like going out there and making the conversations and going to the places and meeting the people. And it was very much a crash course because in an NAIA program that was underfunded then, right? I don't know how they're funded now, but like it was certainly underfunded at the time.
Yeah,
We were trying to stretch a dollar out of a dime,
right.
right? But I didn't want that to hinder what we could do. And so um, keep in mind, though, this is all around 2019, and then COVID
Yeah, the
hits.
hammer's dropping. Yep. Hmm.
Uh, and so, boy, the world shuts down. In our area, everything shut down. Like
Yeah. Yeah, Michigan
we
got
were
hit.
we were pretty much
Bad.
just staying home, like
Hmm.
not going anywhere. It just the amount of Legos and Hot Wheels, though, for our kiddo, just goodness gracious. I'll tell you what. Wow. And I know other COVID parents are going to be like, same.
Yep.
Um, But then coming back from that, as we were doing the return to work protocols, I know that Coach Wilson and his wife were expecting a little one, and
Mm,
there was some concerns there for health. And so he stepped away for concerns over the little one's health,
right.
which I respect, right? I mean, you,
Yeah,
you don't want to take that risk with your little one.
absolutely.
Um, but because of that, our AD's like, hey, like, what's up? Because like he told me in a phone call, and like 2 minutes later, I'm getting a phone call from the AD. Like, did you know? Like, what's going on? I was like,
Mm,
nope, I did not, but I'll throw my hat in
hmm.
because I mean, at that point, like, why not, right? I mean,
Yeah,
yeah, we'll learn it as we go if we need to.
right.
And so then I was named head coach,
Yep.
and that was interesting because it was head for cross and track, right?
Hmm.
And not knowing as much cross stuff, the the one thing I leaned on from my former coach Aaron Kaler was find people that are smarter than you.
Mm-hmm.
and help them out. And it must have been, the universe sending a prayer, right? Because I get a call from Paul Rice over at Oakland.
Mm-hmm.
Says, "Hey, I got this guy just graduated. He's an All-American in the steeple. Um, maybe you want to give him a chance as a distance guy." I'm like, "Sure, yeah, we're gonna give him a chance. Get his ass here now, right?"
Right, right.
Um, and we had just hired a sprint jumps guy. So like, our distance guy was Andrew Bowman, and our sprint jumps guy was Marcus Johnson. These are two of the best guys I know. Like
Mm,
seriously, I mean, the passion they pour into their athletes is infectious. Just the
awesome.
energy they bring. It's certainly different energy, but it balances and complements so well
Mm-hmm.
that the three of us, I mean, we kind of became this machine, and we were recruiting kids well, and we were making the little things work because like we didn't have a track, right? So we were
Right.
using a middle school track to do some training. We were running outside, running on treadmills. Eventually we got into an indoor soccer complex where we could throw and
Hmm.
jump and you know trying everything we could to stay relevant and competitive in a conference that had Indiana Tech, Cornerstone, um,
Oh.
Siena Heights, Madonna, Lawrence
Mm.
Tech. I was just
Oh,
like,
wow. Holy.
yeah. So I mean, doing what we could, right? And we did well. Like over our time there, I think our kids broke like 56 school records between the various events, and we were moving the needle in the right direction, starting to move up in the conference. Um, and we were there for a few years, and it was one of those things where, money is what it is, right? And I was doing the head coaching role at one point and having to do the sports information director role.
Right.
So I was going to multiple different sporting events across multiple
Mm-hmm.
things. It was a lot of stuff on our family and a lot of being gone. Um, very blessed that our in-laws were around to be able to help with that for sure.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, but it was taxing,
Yeah.
right? And it was not for a great deal of money in the salary.
Right.
So an opportunity came up um, for our family, um, for myself and my wife, um, when we saw a position for Goshen College open up.
Mm-hmm.
And we said, all right, we'll go down there and we'll do what we can if they're willing to take us. And so they were, and it was, just as the head coach for these pieces for track and field, because they had a head coach for cross. Um, I was like, all right, yeah, that's fine. We can do this. We can work together. So we made the move down. Um, hated leaving Rochester because we loved the kids, right? We
Mm-hmm.
loved what we were building there. But before we left, we had asked one of our former athletes who was there when I first got there, a woman named Emma Fickle, if she would consider helping out as a volunteer, kind of knowing that like if things went well, I might take this other role. And so we were trying to set the stage because she was a local gal. She's got a lot of love for the school. She graduated there, is like a townie, right?
Yeah.
So I was like, man, if anyone can breathe love and life into this program, it's going to be her, right?
Right.
Well, also knowing that my other two assistants are fantastic people, that they were going to get offers soon too. I'm like, you have to stage and seed for the future, right? I didn't want this to be a thing where we did a thing and left. I wanted this to be something that could grow because it's not about us, it's about the program. And so I was like, come on, help out with this. And so when I left, and then another coach left, and she moved up, and then another coach left, and now she's the head coach for track and field
Oh,
and the
wow.
program. Um, and they've done some good stuff and continued the success that we had there. And it's a beautiful thing to see. And Coach Fickle is doing such wonderful things with her kids. Like
Mm-hmm.
I'm so proud of who she is um, as a coach
That's cool.
and empowering her athletes. But yeah, like that was kind of a cool way to kind of like help give back,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. What year what track season was your first year as the head coach at Goshen?
So we were in the, let's see, I believe we left 22, so the 22-23 school year.
So becoming a head coach is extremely hard.
Yeah.
As an assistant coach, we sometimes forget like we have it pretty good. We really just need to focus on our
Yeah.
event area, and maybe the head coach allows us to do equipment or scheduling or whatever, but really we have our one area to concern ourselves. So the head coach has to concern themselves with an area typically, but also the entire
Yeah.
rest of the team. I can't imagine how hard that would be during COVID. I mean, we had experienced coaches that struggled during COVID
Yeah.
for many reasons. It was new for everybody. But you went in as the head coach at Rochester during COVID, and you didn't know what you didn't know, meaning you didn't know what it was to be a head coach of a collegiate program. You learned along
Yeah.
the way. Now you get to go. It's almost like you get a reset here because now we're in closer to normal times in the 23 track
A little
season.
bit. Yeah.
How was
Yeah.
that different for you?
Um, well, a few ways. Like number one, they were a little bit better funded, right? So they had a little bit more support. They had a facility outdoors and a quasi training facility indoors.
Hmm.
Um, so I mean that certainly made the recruiting a lot easier.
Hmm.
They had a little bit bigger campus, but this is a program again that had been a relatively small team. I mean, they'd had success throughout the years for sure, um, but team wise, we're finishing like ninth and 10th in the conference. And
Hmm.
again, we I mean, put this in perspective, Mike. We went from the WAC with Indiana Tech and all of them to now we're in the crossroads with Marion and Indiana Wesleyan. So it's like probably just can't catch a break.
What do they say? Out of the frying pan into the fire? Yeah,
And,
holy
and
cow.
I mean, this was a lot, right? And so we get out to Goshen, um, and it's very clear that there was a culture that was there already, um, that was very distance oriented, right? And we had a couple of sprinters. We had a thrower. I mean, it was not what it could have been, right? And I'm a guy that likes to build things to what they could be, right? So we kind of set out a plan, said, all right, we're going to try and bring in X number of kids, and we're trying to bring in more sprinters, more jumpers, more throwers. And this is where I think some of the pieces kind of fell into place where, all right, cool. How do you want to approach the recruiting? How do you want to approach how you build this team? Like, what are the important pieces that you need, right? And so um, we went after sprinters and jumpers, right? Because I mean, you know as well as I do, there's so many programs that can do well with just those events, right? And yes, we went after throwers too. Our distance coach was primarily covering the distance recruits and cross recruits. So I was like, cool, not worried about that at all. Um, but as we started to get more people in, one of um, one of the things that we had talked about was when I came there is making sure we could, support our athletes when we got there. And things I was told that would be in place as supports
Hmm.
were not followed through. And it was clear that the vision of what we had talked about coming in the interview of how we wanted to build the program and become more successful was not the same vision that they had had
Hmm.
as a department. And that's okay, right? I mean, everyone is different, and not everyone is the right coach for a place.
Yeah, but it's not
And
okay, Sean. And what I mean by that, this is something I have passion about because I've seen this
yeah,
through the coaching, recruiting, the interview process, and I see it in the private sector as well. When we're interviewing,
yeah,
both the interviewer and the interviewee, we put on this play. The interviewee thinks every time the question is asked, well, what are they really looking for? How should I answer so that it's the answer they want? And in reality, it's like, dude, I just want you to be yourself. And
yeah,
because if you're yourself and you don't get the job, well, thank God for both of us. You can only fake who
right,
you are for so long. And so when you get to the actual job, you're going to be who you are. And then
yeah,
the person who interviewed goes, wait a minute, who's this guy? This isn't who you said you had these goals and blah, blah, blah. So when I hear you say, hey, and I'm filling in some words here, so correct me where I maybe
yeah,
misunderstood. Hey, during the recruiting process, we're going to support you with X, and our goals are Y, and we want to work together in Z. And then when you actually got there, it's like, oh yeah, no, that none of that was actually true. We want to focus over here on A, B, and C. That is not okay. It is okay that they wanted to focus on something differently, but they should have been upfront with you from the jump. And then you could have decided, oh, yeah, that's not for me.
Yeah.
And both people would, because they're not happy that you're not there either now. You know what I'm saying? That caused setback on their own plans. We got to
It
be more upfront
it
and
did.
honest during interviewing processes, guys.
I mean, it certainly caused some setbacks, but in all honesty, like if we're being just completely open about this, the kids that we recruited and the kids that came there and the kids that stayed there, I mean, they helped those teams reach rankings in their conference that they hadn't reached in like 20 years.
Hmm.
So
I'm not saying you
like,
can't do good things. I'm
no,
saying
no, no,
if,
I'm not saying you're not, but I'm saying like
and
even
I'm
the
passionate
small
about
impact that we made,
I'm
the
passionate
small
about this
impact that we
because
made still
I
helped
had this
push it
happen to me
forward.
at the JUCO system. I'll just point, and everybody knows I coached at Neosho County, and I don't even know if the AD is and the president is still there. I
Yeah,
don't know. I don't care because when I got there, when I got the job in May, they had 3 kids returning. So I used all summer to recruit. We ended up having 15. Not a bad job, not a great job, but only had 15 kids to coach for that whole 2001 season, right? So what did I do the majority of the time? I recruited. And as I'm recruiting these kids, really good kids, by the way, but a lot of kids, because in junior college, especially in Kansas, especially during that time, it was about butts and beds. And so as I'm
yeah,
signing more and more kids, and we're gonna have a bigger team than we've ever had, I go to the AD and the president. I'm like, hey, so that's gonna cost us more. I need more uniforms. I can't do it with 2 vans anymore. All this kind of stuff.
yeah,
No worries, Mike. We're making so much money with these kids you're bringing in. You're gonna get it. Blah 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 blah. Started the second season, and I get my budget, and it's not one penny more. And I was like,
yep,
guys, well, you told me to go get the kids. I did. I can't not take them to meet. I can't just take 2 vans and leave the rest of the 60 kids at the house. We'll
yeah,
get there my next season. But and I was like, bull crap. You lied to me. You lied to me. Those guys lied to me, which made me a liar to those kids, which made their experience not as good as it could and should have been.
yeah.
And if they would have said, Mike, look, we want 100 kids on the team, but you're not going to get any more budget, I would have recruited differently.
Oh yeah. I mean,
I
seriously,
would have
right?
recruited
Like,
different types of athletes.
but I think there's also something to be said about if a program's one way for so long, right? And this program in particular was a distance oriented program, right? So if you're getting a lot of distance kids, you're not getting a lot of throwers, not getting a lot of jumpers. You're not spending a whole lot on equipment either that you need to facilitate them to be successful.
Hmm.
And you're getting your uniforms and stuff. But like, whether it's cross budget, it's track budget,
Hmm.
whatever, right? But like now you can kind of, work whatever.
Hmm.
When you've got two separate things now, it's like this is necessity
Hmm.
to be able to facilitate these. So like one thing we talked about was
I agree with you. What you said, Sean, was they told me they were going to support me this way. And then when I got
yeah,
there, it was different. That's called a lie.
it is. It is.
And that is what I have a real problem with administrators, head coaches when they're interviewing assistant coaches. The reverse I have as well, by the way, the assistant coach who says, I'm going to be able to do X, Y, and Z, and then says, yeah, I don't really want to do that when they get the job. That is also, we've got to be more upfront and honest so that people can decide not to take jobs.
Yeah.
That's the crazy part when people think about when you interview, you should not take a job if you're like, oh, you want this person to be yada, yada, yada. Well, I'm not that person, so I shouldn't take this job. That's a success.
Well, and so one thing that I had talked about too, and I don't know if younger coaches are out there and they're thinking about programs and like so they don't fall in this pitfall, right? Um, One thing I did was I looked at what it would potentially cost a student athlete to be there, right? Like, roughly how much for a new uniform for them, how much for, if you had to divvy up their meet entry fee over the course of X number of meets,
Yeah, yeah,
how much for meals,
yeah. What each
what other
kid's
equipment,
costing you. Hmm.
right? And I was like, like 15 to 1700 at a minimum per
Hmm.
kid per year. I'm like, if we're doing at least that, like if we're increasing the budget to at least cover the bare
Hmm.
minimum,
Hmm.
right? I think that works because you can't feed a team of 60 on a budget for a team of 30,
Agreed.
right? And so um, it was like 6 or 7 different answers of, well, it's coming, it's coming. It might be coming. No, we got to find it, and no, we're still looking for it. And
Hmm.
then, well, it's not going to be there. And then it's well, while you brought in more kids, we've had bigger teams in the past who haven't needed this, and it's like
Hmm.
yes, but what exactly did those teams need?
Hmm.
Where was the budget coming from for those kids? Was it coming from another part of it or this? And
Right.
so like it became this whole thing where I was like, that's difficult, number one, right? Um, but another piece though And again, like yeah, we talked in the pre-interview, right? If we're just being open and honest, right?
Hmm.
Um, the other thing was the coaching staff has to share the vision for what's going to happen.
Hmm.
If they don't, it doesn't work. And so if you have members of your staff who feel like, well, this is how we've always done it, well, that's great, but how you've always done it is currently leading you to ninth and 10th in the conference. That's a problem.
Right.
Or if people don't want to recruit, or if people don't want to be part of those processes.
Hmm.
Um, Now, I'm not saying everyone on our staff was like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Not at all.
Did
Like
you
we
inherit
had some
that
good members of our
staff
staff
or did you hire that staff?
inherited,
Yeah,
but
that's a concern, because first of all, one of the things that I think we as athletic departments need to do a better job of is, we talk a lot about coaching education, about going to the USATF level
yeah,
ones, level
yeah.
twos, talking with your peers, things like that, about how to coach, in this example, throwers better. We
Mhm.
never, and USTFCCCA is starting to do a better job at this, not a great job, and I'm not sure it's their responsibility, so I'm not calling them out. It's
Mhm.
administrations, athletic departments, that I'd really be calling out here. We never, when we hire our first time head coaches, never ever have I heard of anyone being sat down saying, "Okay, so you're gonna now be in charge of a staff. So that means hiring, and that means maybe firing, by the way, which means evaluating, annual evaluations, etc. Here's best practices." No one's ever been taught how to hire people. So when we go out and hire, we hire, I don't even want to say typically, it's easier for us to hire people that we know or that we're friends with, or a referral, and that may not be the right person for you. So I have a real big
Well,
beef on that. The other beef I have is, when you so that's one. If you get to hire staff, if you inherit your staff, that is a whole. Sean, I believe you should have had training on, hey, so you've got a staff, and by the way, they were not your staff. You didn't pick these guys and gals.
mhm.
So here are some trainings on how to lead them. You're gonna come into some barriers, potential barriers, because of this. So let us help you, because that's what administration should, they should be doing. They should be supporting coaches.
Well, I think part of the barrier though was just off the jump. I mean, we had a lot of part-time coaches, right,
Hmm.
who were
It's
getting small
common. Yeah,
stipends,
it's not
and
uncommon.
and so it's like there's a mentality of, and I, which kind of threw me for a loop. I wasn't used to it when I got down here. It was a, if I'm not getting paid for it, I'm not doing it, right? And everywhere I had been at in Michigan was a, hey, whatever we can do to help, like how, like whatever, if it takes extra, it takes extra. We just
Hmm.
do it, right? So this was kind of like a culture clash a little bit, right?
Hmm.
And so I was like, man, like this is wild. Like I don't get this. Um, but we were able to make one coaching transition at the end of the first year to help our sprints program, which has now flourished, right? Because that person was in there now um, to do her thing. And she was also the only woman we had on staff when I brought her on. So I was like, cool, we need someone our female athletes can connect with. Like, that's great. Um, but Goshen isn't a big metropolis. Like it's a smaller town, right? So finding knowledgeable people in your
Hmm.
area like can be a little bit harder, right? And so like you take what you can have for sure. Um, but that's also part of the problem with our sport too, right? Is like we we can carry three or four full-time people for some sports, like court sports, right? Where everyone's on the field or court doing the same exact thing.
Hmm.
But for a sport that requires 24 plus
Hmm.
specialties, and one thing might be a mile away because it has to be a mile away, right?
Hmm.
Like that sort of support should be there. But like that's my soapbox, right?
No, agreed, Sean. It's
Yeah.
interesting. You're almost where I'm having struggles here is, you're almost apologetic for the lack of training from administration and departments, even though you've been through this. What you're describing, this is a good lesson for people, not to judge. One of the We've had amazing coaches here, but one of my
Yeah.
absolute favorite episodes, George Williams, now retired from St. Aug's, and I learned it actually from Brooks Johnson, rest in peace, when he was on the
Mhm.
show. But
Yeah. Yeah.
George has a statement, has a philosophy, if you will, saying if you're not in the huddle, you don't know the play. And it really affected me. It's like,
Mhm.
oh, Yeah, when that dude cuts me off on the road, I actually have no clue what's going on in that person's life. They might have just gotten a horrific call from a family
Yeah.
member, fire, who know, whatever. Why judge? Move on. I didn't get hurt. Let's move on. So the same thing when we look at coaching staffs and we look at whatever XYZ university and go, oh man, they're not very good at the insert event fee. I'm going to use throws because you're here.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Their throws not very good. And it's like, you have no idea. That person might be getting zero scholarships. That coach might be a volunteer coach. That
Hmm.
coach, and you're like, and you can, and it's easy from past experiences, etc., or your own motivations, or how you think you would do the job. It's easy to go, yeah, but boy, I didn't come from that mentality. I don't care if you got paid or not. You did the best you could. You don't know if that, and I'm mythical. I'm not pointing.
Right, 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 right.
You don't know if that volunteer coach goes, yeah, I work 80 hours a week at this CIO job, and then come and help for a couple hours. Sorry, not sorry that I don't pour 100%. I
Yeah,
don't have 100. I have 1% left for this kids. By the way, the alternative, you could get rid of me. That's fine. I'm a volunteer. But the alternative is 0%, by the way. You don't have anybody. We're in small town USA here.
yeah.
So I'm just saying that all those things that I talk about there, now back to the real world, Sean, when you take over a
Mhm.
staff, is those are things that I believe an athletic administration should sit down with our newly hired head coaches and talk through
Yeah.
and have the right expectations. Sean, you're gonna have a staff of three, whatever the number was. I don't even know what it was. A staff of three. By the way, all three are either part times or one is actually a volunteer. Because of that, Sean, we know our basketball coach. We have four coaches over
Mhm.
there. They're all full time. So I have a little bit higher expectations of what they're going to do in conference. For
Right,
you,
right,
my
right, right,
expectation
right,
is going to be a little lower. Now I don't have zero expectations for you, Sean. You
right.
are full time, but you know what? You have a volunteer pole vault coach. I'm not going to expect. Oh, and by the way, we have no budget for polls and stuff.
No.
I'm not going to expect conference champs conference. You'll be excused on that. If you do, God bless you. You must be a miracle worker. But that is what is not happening on a daily basis, and I fervently believe it should be.
Well, and a lot of times that expectation is simply put butts in seats.
100%. Hey, and
Like, I mean,
and
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 that's where
that's
it's like great.
okay.
Like,
If
yeah, like
that's what's
it,
expressed to you during an interview, Sean,
yeah,
then you get
like,
to choose. Because here's the thing. They can't tell you, hey, Sean, I don't care how good you do. You can get last for all I
right.
care, but minimum 100 kids on the team. As long
Yeah.
as they say that during the interview process, then you're responsible if they offer the job and you take it and then say, yeah, I
No.
don't really like that. I'm a competitive. I don't want to be last. I want to be sixth. And that might mean only 60 kids and you get in trouble
Well,
for it. That's on you, bro. They told you, but I don't think
yeah,
people are, I don't think they're actually telling our coaches during interview processes that.
right.
And so you don't get to make that choice of, do I want this job or not?
Well, and we certainly had roster expectations coming in, right? And like year one, when you have hardly anybody on the team, like that's really hard because if there's no training group, why would someone go there, right?
Sure.
So like year one, we had a smaller group. Year two, before we ended up stepping away, because I was like, if this is how you want to do these
Hmm.
things, then
Hmm.
I'm not the guy that you should have leading this
Hmm.
because the direction you want to take and the direction I want to take are very different.
That's right.
But up until that point, we had 18 people already signed, and we still had several people like on the hook to go, right? So
Mhm.
like we were going to be above our number, and I said, well, if you've got that many people, and remember, like these aren't distance kids; these are sprinters, jumpers, throwers,
Mhm.
and hurdlers, vaulters, whatever. So I'm like, if we bring in that many this year, then we could potentially bring in that many the next year, right? Because now we've got a bigger training group, so more
Right.
kids likely to come. You get a few studs, and now it's going to attract a few more studs, and so on
Mhm.
and so forth. So I'm like I had this chart in my office. It was like a 5-year roadmap, right? And so all of my athletes could come in and see it too and be like, each year I want to get this many of this event, this event, this event. And I said, look, my goal, like you guys are here. My goal is to recruit someone to come in here because by the end of this year, you should be here. And now
Mhm.
we have a bunch of people at this level. And then next year's recruiting group will be here. And then everyone raises up again, right? So the rising tides raise all ships.
Yep.
And so I wanted to be as very clear as I could with our athletes about that, right? And so like that's why I always had it up in my office. Um, but this was again, this was a lot of moving in a new direction very quickly.
Mhm.
And I think that's if you're not used to it, right? If you're not used to doing those things, you're just used to the same old, or the this is how we've always done it.
Mhm.
That's really scary, right?
Agreed.
And
Agreed.
that's kind of unsettling sometimes.
Mhm.
And not everyone is prepared for it, right? if you're going to go into a role, like you said, there needs to be some honesty there and some openness, but it should be,
Take out the word some in that sentence you just said, by the way.
yeah.
Not need to be some honesty. There
Oh,
needs
yeah.
to be honesty.
But there has to be, that clarity to say, hey, this is exactly what we're looking for,
Agreed.
and this is exactly what we need you to do.
Agreed.
And I think there needs to be some, we'll take out some. There needs to be clarity back from the coaches to say, look, you have no facility or a dilapidated facility, or you don't have a budget. So realistically, this is what you can expect.
Hmm.
And at
Yeah,
some point,
the only thing I
there has
would
to be a balance.
small pushback there is I don't think it's the interviewee's place to say, "Hey, you want X, but you only have Y, Z, and A." That's not
No,
going to
no,
happen. It's the interviewee's position to go, "Oh, cool, that's what you said. Well, I see you only have blah 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 blah. This ain't the job for me. Good luck."
well, no, I'm saying like if you're the person that they're going to make the offer to, right?
Mhm.
Like I think there does need to be that clarity to say, look, like this is what I think realistically we can do.
Okay, this is a mistake, Sean. Now, here's why.
Yeah,
Here's one of the first things, but to become a really like I I changed from being a salesman, salesperson to a sales professional when I got it through my thick skull.
yeah,
And by the way, you can insert coach into this, by the way, because
yeah,
recruiting
yeah.
is selling. When I realized it is not my job to convince you to buy my product, it is not your job to convince a kid to come to your school. It's not. You ain't changing no one's mind. You're not. Now, your school may scratch the itch of that kid's needs and wants. That's different because your
Yeah,
job is to go find those kids who have the things that your
correct.
school has. Okay, good, perfect, thank you. The same thing. Your job as a candidate for a job, your role as a candidate for a job is not to convince that person who's hiring you, hey, if you change this, hey, if you change your expectation, that school ain't gonna change their expectations because you
I,
say, I know you want 100 kids on the team, but I think you should go for 75 because you don't have a current team and blah blah
I
blah.
I don't want them to change their expectations. I want them to understand where I'm at. And again, I'm going to be the outlier in this, right? I'm going to be the guy that probably doesn't get a lot of those jobs, and that's okay,
It's
right?
100% okay.
But
Absolutely.
I would rather be open and upfront and say, look, and again, my experience,
Agreed.
whatever it is, right?
I'm with you
Say,
100%.
hey, like in my experience, this is what I think is possible. Now, if you still want me for the job, then yeah, we're going to do everything we can to meet your goals and expectations
I'm
where
with
you're
you
at.
on this
But
100%.
but I don't want to take this like without having said, I think that this is what is
Yeah.
realistically capable
Yeah.
because I think there are so many times that we don't say that, right?
Yeah.
Because we shut up
I'm with
or
you.
we don't say the things to be
I'm
like,
with you.
well, I just want to
This
get the job,
100% agree
right?
with you. What I think happens though is even if that administrator says, "You know what? Maybe you're right. We'll lower our expectations." They ain't, bro.
Yeah.
They ain't. You're
No.
going to get there and go, "Wait a minute. You told me we agreed back down to I'm using roster numbers down to
Yeah,
75,
yeah,
but
yeah.
now you're back to telling me 100." Well, just like the kind of excuses you heard. Well, that's what we need. Well, that was our original goal. Well, that's what we're for our administration or athletic department. And it's like, bro, well, that's not what we agreed upon.
Well,
That's
and it
wrong.
shouldn't
That's lying. That's wrong.
and it shouldn't be about the lowering of expectations. It should be about just being realistic, right? Like I think
Yeah,
realistically, this is
I'm
where we
saying
can.
because I'm using 175. That's why I say lower expectations.
Yeah.
But you're right. It's a mindset change, a
But
framing.
but but here's the thing, Mike, right? Realistically, maybe we're only going to be able to get 75 now, but once I get to 75, I should be able to get the 100.
Yeah, that's not true.
I
That's
think I
not true.
should. I think I should be in the
Not
ballpark.
every school can get 100.
No, not every school can. I wish administrators would know that, but
Yeah, yeah, right. Well, that's true. That's right. Yeah, yeah. I'm sure every administrator listening goes, "Oh yeah, no, we for sure can get 100." It's like, bro, no, you
uh-huh.
can't. But your school's 1,000. What do you mean you can get 100? That's the odds are impossible there.
Well, and places like in the Midwest, right? Or the Northeast where you get snow, right?
Yeah.
Where's your indoor facility that's
Yeah,
going to attract the kids to
exactly.
come
Yeah,
here,
yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
I
No, they
mean,
never think, well, and I should never say the word never.
yeah,
A lot of them don't realize, don't care. That's actually the real term, not realize. They're smart people. People in administration are smart people. I'm not taking that away from them.
yeah.
There is sometimes a lack of care of like, yeah, we want you to have 100. I don't care how you get them or don't get them to meets. I don't care how you do or do not get them in a uniform. I do not care if you do or do not have the equipment to support them. I don't care if you have a full-time coach of a skill
Yeah.
level. They don't like you got 100. Cool. I get my funding from that. I get
Yep.
my tuition dollars paid from that. That's what they care about. And as long as you know that, you can
Hmm.
coach appropriately. And as long as you know that, you can make a decision of
Right.
this is not why I got into coaching, so I need to go find some other place. Okay, Sean, first of all, healthy conversation. Thank you for having that with me.
Yeah.
So where do we go past Goshen? And let's be honest with you, in case anybody's listening from Goshen, let's be real here. We're not pointing fingers at Goshen. This is
No,
not a
no, not at all.
Goshen
Not at
issue.
all.
Unfortunately, there's a lot of schools. This is an issue. And then this whole philosophy of how we interview and how we, so as the interviewer and as the interviewee, how we handle those situations need improving in our profession. My job, my role is to continually to help increase the professionalism of coaching track and field. And I think this is one of those parts. I'm tired of talking about coaching ed. I love coaching ed. I don't see that there's a problem. There is a small problem with coaching knowledge, but there's a much bigger problem with paying, professionalism, hiring, evaluation, etc., into our profession. Where do we go
Yeah.
next, Sean?
Well, and I kind of want to piggyback on that
Please.
too. Like I just want to say like I was very thankful for Goshen to have given us the opportunity,
Right.
right? And I have a lot of love and respect for the people that work there, the staff that work there, the kids who are still there on the team. And
Yeah.
like I always want to see them succeed because no
Absolutely.
matter what program we're at some point, I tell this to all my kids, at some point everyone leaves.
That's right.
So
That's
like
right.
you shouldn't harbor that ill will towards it, right?
Good
Like
point.
I'm open and honest about this because maybe this will help somebody else start to have those conversations to say maybe I should consider some of these things before I jump in.
Right.
But
Amen.
if I'm not vulnerable about it and be honest with it, then somebody else might miss that step.
Yeah, bingo. That is one of the most important things you said in this entire interview, boss. That's exactly right. Being vulnerable, being honest, and then making decisions based off of that, not making decisions off of emotions or falsehoods. That's
Yeah.
where we get in trouble. That's where we're not aligned.
So stepping away from that,
Hmm.
um, that was hard because like we had uprooted our family, we had moved,
Hmm.
to another state. Um, and I was kind of back in that like, man, I'm feeling defeated.
Yeah.
Like holy like and I don't think the me a few years prior would have been able to say, you know what? No, I'm not the guy for this. Like this isn't, this isn't what we talked about. Like I'm confident enough in my abilities to step away. No.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, so that was growth, even though it was painful, it was
Yeah.
growth.
Yeah. Most
Um,
most growth is painful.
right. But I was like, okay, I'm gonna we'll find something. So I found a job working as a Jobs for America's Graduates instructor, right? So kind of
Okay.
like helping teach kids life skill stuff. But it was 45 minutes south of Goshen in this town called Warsaw.
Oh man, yeah.
And at the time they had a throws job open up at Grace College, which was right there in Warsaw. And I was like, you
Hmm.
know what? Too soon. Like I'm
Yeah,
not going to
sure.
jump back. Well, because it's in that same conference too, right?
Yeah,
I'm like,
yeah. Oh, yeah.
I'm not just doing that.
Right.
Um, but the principal I was working for, because I was in an alternative school, right?
Mhm.
So kids who, maybe had a rough go and trying to like finish up strong, right? Um, the principal of that school, he was a former throws coach, and so he and I hit it off well.
Nice.
And he's like, "Hey, the women's program needs a throws coach." I was like, "Women's program, like, because again, in the area we were at in Indiana, men's and women's teams were separate,
Hmm.
and they competed at separate sites and separate nights,
Oh,
except for our conference
oh,
championship.
right. Because the state meet is like that too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So like
that's
the
true, true,
only
true,
meet we
true.
did together was the conference championship meet.
Right, 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 right.
So like I was still getting used to that. Like I remember the first time I went to go recruit at a high school meet when I got down to Goshen, I'm like, where's half the team? They're just like, they're
Hmm.
not here. I was like, okay, definitely not in Kansas anymore.
Yeah, that's right.
Um,
That's right.
so I went and I was like, okay, yeah, sure. Like I'll talk to whoever the head coach is, who
Hmm.
was a former thrower for the high school herself.
Oh, wow.
And she threw in college a little bit. And so I'm like, all right, cool. Like just this like very universe sending you some help, right? Um, and so we sat down and we talked, and she's like, yeah, you know what? Sounds good. Like we'll help you out. Her name is Megan Davis. You know, so thankful for her being there in the program. But I also wasn't prepared for a high school that had a full indoor track set up with jumps areas and vaults areas and throws areas. I'm just like, I guess we'll take it. I don't
Yeah,
know.
right.
I think this is better at some of the colleges I'd coached at,
Yeah,
right? So I was
yeah.
like, all right, we can do this. So came in and I was like, all right, like here's what we got. And we had a small women's group, right? And our men's throws group at the time had some studs on them, and they have a wonderful men's throws coach named Angela Miller, just terrific person, first class all the way. Um, I know I name drop a lot, but
Oh, it's good. Yeah,
none of our paths to wherever we're getting get there solo.
100%.
So I feel like if I don't give credit to people who have
Yeah.
been on the path,
We
then
we
I'm
almost
doing a service.
we almost
Right.
named the podcast the Gill Shout Out Podcast because that's
Oh,
connections.
yeah.
Exactly right. Connections is not solo.
Yeah.
Connections is more than one. So 100% people that have
Yeah.
affected your life positively are absolutely deserved of a shout out. 100%.
Oh, yeah. So we started working with that group, and I remember one of the expectations was, okay, with the kids we have, we think we might finish fourth in the shot in the conference meet outdoors. I'm like,
Mm,
okay. I I think we could probably do a little bit better than that. And so we worked through, and it was a trust thing. They had a coach who I guess they had kind of rubbed some of them the wrong way, and so there was trust to build there, right?
mhm.
And through the course of the season, we built enough where our kids were like, all right, yeah, like this is the path we need to be on. Okay. And we finished with, going 1-2 in the conference in shot, 1-4 in the conference in disc,
Awesome.
1-4 in the sectional disc, I think like third in the sectional for shot, and then like, oh gosh, ninth or 10th maybe in shot at the regional meet, and third in the regional in disc, and our gal ended up finishing 14th overall in the state.
Wow.
And she was a sophomore, right? And so we're like, I think we outkicked our coverage on that one a little bit, right? And so it felt good to get back into a program where I could focus on the event area,
Mhm.
right? And I mean, I have a lot of respect and I love doing the head coaching thing to have the vision, but like, man, it's nice to be able to kind of narrow that focus a bit.
That's what I mean. The assistant
It really
coaches
is.
sometimes that, I know we always want growth and sometimes we get antsy and we want to be head coaches. And it's like,
Yeah.
man, you got it pretty good as an assistant. Don't lose sight of what's right there in front of you for what is, the old grass is greener and all that kind of stuff. But man, you got it
I,
pretty good sometimes as an assistant coach.
I think it would be helpful for every assistant to have to have been a head coach at some point just to help them get that view of that the world is bigger than their event,
Yeah, I
right?
don't know that they need
Like,
that. There's plenty of assistant coach that lifelong assistant coaches that are amazing. I mean,
no, I agree with that, but I'm just saying I think it's beneficial to have that because
mm,
at least in my experience I've seen a lot of coaches who've just been that one event in their lane and it
mhm.
gets kind of dictatorish, if you will,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
and and
maybe.
that can be a detriment sometimes,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But I think
So,
having that
so
experience to see the bigger world
I
from that
think of
viewpoint
someone
help.
who becomes a dictator, like you say in your words, that's an event coach. I think they just become a head coach who's a dictator. Let's be
No,
real,
that's fair.
man.
That's fair.
I'm not sure. All right,
Uh,
Sean, we're near the end of our time. Give us an update of where you are today, man. You're doing a lot more. I know we're talking about Warsaw, and that's enough. That's a lot, but you're
yeah.
doing a little bit more than that, my friend.
Yeah. So right now I am still working with Warsaw Community High School. Um, I am also a volunteer assistant for Concord University in West Virginia,
Mhm.
Division II out there, helping with Zoom calls and video analysis and things of that nature.
Is that
Uh,
challenging you to either coach differently or see coaching differently? I know of a few people who have coached people over video, and that seems, I mean, it's hard to coach when the athlete's right there in front of you for crying out loud. You lose touch, like you don't get to actually move their arm in the right place, things
yeah.
like that. You've got to maybe be better verbal than you've ever been.
Very much so. And I think you have to be more structured in how you approach things too.
Mm,
Um, just because, when you're face to face with someone, it's so easy, like you said, just to be able to move people in the right position to help them understand.
Hmm. Hmm.
But you have to give them more visuals and better terminology to be able to understand the concept that you're trying to create. Like I
Hmm.
can move somebody's arms up here in the catch for hammer and be like, all right, now at this point, now you're feeling this right foot turn, and
Right, right.
we go through all that, right? But on a video, I can say, all right, cool. I want that up higher. Nope, higher, higher. Now we're going to swing it like we're trying to throw a bale of hay, right?
Hmm.
Or
Hmm.
you just trying to make those connections and relations based on what they have
Do
too.
kids still
And
get that example?
the bale of hay,
Yeah.
um, I I do with weight more so than I do with hammer.
Yeah.
But
But
I
do
tend to
kids
use that.
understand that? I mean, I'm trying to think of a 20-year
Some
old,
kids,
16-year-old kid now.
some farm
Yeah.
kids do for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um,
Okay. Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, another one we use is like if you ever tried to throw something up on top of a car, right? Or like luggage rack or something like that, or like
Yeah, okay.
something heavy that you're trying to get up to the top shelf and you're trying
Yeah.
to
Yeah,
like.
yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, there's different ways to say it, right?
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah, yeah.
going through video has certainly been challenging in that.
Yeah.
But I've
How
been
did you
blessed.
get connected with Concord?
So, um, coaching education actually.
Nice.
So I had, after I did my level one back in like 2014, 2015, I did my level two through Zoom
Mm-hmm.
during COVID. I was one of the first Zoom classes for
Mm-hmm.
throws for COVID. And then during my time in Goshen, I did the Emerging Elite Coaches School
Mm-hmm.
through USATF and went out to Chula Vista.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was out there, one of the guys that was my roommate, his name is John Kegel.
Hmm.
Well, John Kegel is a fantastic distance guy. Like, just love him to death. He's super passionate about his kids. Um, but he was down at Lynn University for a while in Florida,
Mm-hmm.
and he's a Florida guy through and through. But he had gotten the job at Concord last summer, and he calls me up. He's like, "Hey, I need help with throws."
Mm-hmm.
He's like, can you do something?" I'm like, "Yeah, you know what? Like, let's help you out." And so walk through like what programming could look like, how it should like. And he's a strength and conditioning guy too, so like he understands that piece. The technical piece is where we're, learning and stuff, but we would do Zoom calls with him and his group to talk about why pieces are important and why this is good and that's good.
Mm-hmm.
Just again that like education piece across all the barriers, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, so that's been super helpful. But on top of working with them, right? I have a post-collegiate athlete I'm working with as well.
Oh, because you're not busy enough. Got it. Okay.
I know,
Uh-huh.
right?
Uh-huh.
Based out of Tennessee.
Yeah.
And she's 10 years post-collegiate, right? Had some life things come up, and really kind of, waylaid some things. But I was like, you know what? Like I kind of feel that, right? I feel that like you left something on the table.
Right.
And so I remember being like, hey, like if you ever need help, like, throws community is always here. Feel free to reach out.
Mm-hmm.
And so we started connecting and working, and we've been working since last August. And she opened up this year throwing, goodness, she foot fouled one that was like 15 feet past her lifetime best in college,
Wow.
and had one that was like 2 feet under that was measured from her thing, but
Yeah.
she's thrown much farther in practice. And so we're like, all right, like
Is
we're
this a hammer
making
thrower, discus?
discus thrower
Yeah,
actually.
discus. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And
yeah,
so we're making some good strides there. But
yeah.
again, that's like, all right, here's the technical piece. Like, how do we break these down?
All
And
right.
luckily enough, she's a student of the sport, right? So like a lot of, well, why does the arm need to be here versus there? Like why
Mm-hmm.
should we be more over our left? Like, what do you think about this? And so that back and forth is huge on it, right? But
Is that,
that's where,
do you think that's making you a better coach? It's interesting
yeah,
when we deal with young kids, like high school kids, sometimes when they ask a question and they're genuinely being curious, we as adults take that as challenging. Like, just shut up and run, Joey. You don't have to ask these questions. Now you're in a more adult to adult coaching
yeah.
relationship. So now you don't think she's asking you a question because she's trying to question your authority. You think she's actually being curious and wondering. And so you've got to access a different part of your brain of like, oh, I didn't think about that. Maybe this, that, is that making you a better coach, challenging you in any aspects?
You know, I don't necessarily think I've thought of it too much as an athlete ever challenging authority when they're asking a question.
Hmm.
Like going back to my sister, right? Like having
Hmm.
to think like people
Hmm.
don't know what they don't know,
Right.
right? And so if you're asking a question, I'm going to assume that you don't know, and
Hmm.
that's why you want to know. So I don't think I've had to see it from that way too much.
Hmm.
Um, on the rare times it has, instead of trying to go down the authority piece, I've been like, all right, well, if this is what you think, give your reasonings, right?
Hmm.
Defend your argument, right? And if you have a strong enough argument, I'll give you some rope to run with it, right? And say,
Hmm.
all right, let's try it. Because there has to be that give and take, right? I mean, to make this work, it can't be a dictation, it has to be a conversation.
Right.
And so, like, one thing we talk about with our athletes, no matter where they're at, is having our three V's for success, right? And so they're vision, value, and vulnerability. And if you think about like a V, right, you have to first have the vision to see where you're going and
Hmm.
what your goals are, where you're headed. Then you have to provide value, who you
Hmm.
are as a person, not just as an athlete or a number, and put things in bigger perspective. Then you get down to the bottom, which is what we call the valley of success. Like this is the vulnerability piece, right? When you can share the things that you're struggling with, you can share the things that are difficult and you're having a hard time with.
Right.
But when you share those with other people, you start to show each other value.
Right.
And when you show each other value, you start to see the possibilities and the vision for what they can do, right? And so I'm reminded of this guy that what was it? First guy to climb Everest. They got up there and they asked him like, "What are you thinking?" He's like, "Well, I'm thinking about how I'm going to climb that one." Right? It's like, I mean, that's perspective, right? Like, instead of
Yeah.
thinking, "Man, there's this great thing," it's like I'm mapping out how I want to get to there. And
Right.
so it's the same kind of path, right?
Hmm.
And so those sort of things have really driven a lot of what we do.
Hmm.
Like if I'm recruiting a kid and the place doesn't feel like home, I'm going to be the first one to tell them don't come there.
Hmm.
Be like, look, if this doesn't feel like home to you, I get it. I understand. I don't want you to feel a place that doesn't feel like home.
Right.
I don't want you to feel not supported. If you don't feel like I'm understanding you, like I'm willing to sit down and understand however you want to say it, and we'll talk it out until we figure it out. Right. But I'm also going to be honest with you about what I think is capable and possible. And I think that's where like we could talk about that budget piece earlier, right?
Hmm.
Like that vision piece, right? Like vision wise, I can see like this is where we are. We can certainly be here, right? But like
Right.
this is where we are.
Right.
Um, but those three things I think have driven a lot of what we do. And so between balancing all those, a 10-year-old who has an active social life because he's doing flag football and he's doing
Dude.
elementary school track and
Yeah.
he's doing, chess club and archery and
Hmm.
Lego robotics um and my wife who just recently had a heart attack and we're
Hmm.
you know we're trying to like go through that recovery um who I would be remiss if I said that there is a way I could have done any of this without her. I
Mm.
mean, if you want to talk about a why, right? Like
Yeah.
my wife, my son, that's it, man. I
That's
mean,
awesome.
do what we can do the best we can for them, right?
Yeah.
But just like we talk about the connections and not doing this solo, I could not do this without her.
Yeah. I
Like
love it.
she's incredible.
I love that. Um, Yeah, it's funny when you mentioned your 10-year-old, all the activities. That's the one thing, when you start having children, maybe you had this experience, Sean. Everybody else who's a parent has all this advice for you, and most of it's, hyperbole and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
The one thing that people told me that they didn't make a big enough deal about was you're just basically a taxi driver as they get to a certain age. You're at 10, I've got 15 and 12. It just
Yeah.
continues, man. They find everything, and you want, you're a very supportive parent, so you want like, oh, you want to try that? Sure, let's go try that. And just,
Oh,
oh my gosh, it's amazing. So if you don't have a partner to play along with that, it's impossible. It's not even making it tough. It's just impossible. So
yeah.
I'm so happy to see that. And I know you guys are going through it now, some health stuff, and where she's been there for you. Well, now it's your turn to be there for her. So
Amen to that.
she's I know if we had her on the show right now, she'd be saying the same things. Like, man, I couldn't do it without Sean. And that's probably hard to see sometimes when you're younger. Of like, man, someone's gonna really depend on me. And guess what? I'm gonna really want to do that with them, do life with them. And I think it's so awesome you guys have found each other and are doing that.
Yeah. Well, I think that the life of like helping raise my sister, right? The
Yeah.
the long time of working in special education, right?
Hmm.
Like
Hmm.
coaching, taking care of people, helping people.
Yeah.
This to me doesn't seem like I mean trust me, it's a scary thing, right? But
Hmm.
like helping her get through these things, it's another process.
Yeah.
And um well, it's kind of like when Judd Logan I remember there's a story like how he heard about his diagnosis like when he was going through his stuff, and he's like, "All right, cool. What's the plan?"
Hmm. Hmm.
I mean, if you have that mentality, right, to be able to say, "Cool, all right, this thing is happening either to me or for me, depending on how
Right.
you want to view it, right?
Right. Right.
How do we attack it?"
Yeah, I love that. Uh, he mentioned Judd Logan, blessed to have had Judd early in the Gill
Yeah.
podcast. So highly encourage you to go back to listen to that one. Sean, my friend, one of the most valuable things that you can give me is your time, man. And I'm just so grateful that you would spend that time with us, man. Your journey, I've said this before, but every time I hear a story like yours, it like reminds me of this. I thought when we started this, and
Mhm.
from day one, when we had Zeb Hoffman from Evergreen State, he was guest number one, throws coach, and he told us his journey. It was very unique. He was a 30-year-old NAIA national champ in the hammer. That's honestly, it was like, man, this guy's got to be my first guest. How in the world are you a 30-year-old college national champ? That's
Yeah,
crazy,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
But I thought, okay, after we do some number, whether that number was 10 or 50, or God bless for sure by 100, I will have heard, we will have shared every potential way to become a coach. Like there's
Mhm.
only so many avenues. And sitting here now at 360 plus here in your shot, this is unique. No one's ever had this journey that we've had here, man. I love that. I love that our profession, which if you're going to be successful, and when I say successful, I don't mean coaching state champs and all
Yep.
Americans and all that kind of stuff. I'm talking about longevity and positive impact on young people. Uh, you've got to come with a servant's heart, a servant leadership heart, my friend. And that is been the theme throughout your entire journey from your family, your sister, to your children, your child, and your wife, the kids, everything has been from a servant leadership heart. And I think that is the major contribution that you've made so far to this society. Here's the thing: you're not old, by the way. You're young in this, which is cool because that means there's decade, 2 decades, 3 decades
Yeah.
left to serve others, which I think grows your heart, my friend. And I'm just so blessed that you would share that journey with us today.
Well, thank you, sir. I appreciate that. You know, medals and rings collect dust, but the impact you can leave on people is what really matters. So,
Dude, is there a better way to end this episode? That's exactly right. I love that. Sean, thank you so much, man. I do appreciate you. Grateful that you're here today, guys and gals. Thank you so much for being here today. Dropped a lot of, I love Nate. I'm not kidding. It was close to being the Gill shout out podcast because, again, we stand on the shoulders of others, right? And so I love giving that credence and that recognition to the guys and gals that showed us the way. And they do it in different ways, which I love that. And so I love that aspect. And we mentioned a lot of people who have been on have been on the podcast before. So again, highly recommend you just take a look at the library, go back. Like I said, Judd Logan was here, man, God bless him. I think he was, episode 40 or something like that. We talked about George Williams. That's another amazing story. A basketball guy that becomes a legendary Hall of Fame track and field coach. Brooks Johnson, which I still believe should be required listening every year before you coach. Brooks had a unique way of seeing coaching, and I think it's important for all events to see that.
the one thing I remember Brooks saying, it was on one of those the PACA call outs or
Packers.
whatever, or coaches connection things like during COVID
Yeah.
was these are not our athletes, these are the athletes we have the opportunity to work,
Yeah. Yep.
right? They're never
Mhm.
ours.
Yep.
We just get the opportunity to work with them.
That's
Like,
exactly That's exactly
yeah.
right. That's exactly right. I love that. All right, guys and gals, thank you so much for being here this week. That's a great way to end it, man. I had a blast today, and I hope you did too. Join us next week. And of course, Tuesday through Sunday, we have our Gill 1918 projects. You did a Gill 19 on the three V's, right? That
I
was,
did,
yeah,
yes.
I'll just say that was not unfamiliar to me. So if you found that interesting when he was talking about the value, vision, and
Vision, value, and vulnerability.
Vision, value, and vulnerability. Look in the library on your podcast app. He did a Gill 1918 project on that. Thank you for doing that, by the way. Those are 10 to 30-minute episodes, so a little smaller than what we do here on Mondays, but highly valuable. The TED Talks of Track and Field podcast. great information for you on a coach, no matter what level you coach at. Go check out Sean's Gill 1918 project and find some others for you. Okay, join us next week. We'll do it all over again. Thanks, guys.